Hey, welcome everybody. This is the practice quiz for the upcoming percent quiz we'll be taking soon, and we're here to walk through each problem. So in the first problem, you're asked to find the percent of a number. Before we go any further, let's remind ourselves that percent literally means per means out of, and cent means 100. So percent literally means out of 100. So for example, 32% literally means 32 out of 100. And we know that a fractions division problem, and when you divide by 100, you're simply moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. Now in 32, which is the top number here, the decimal point is understood here, so when we divide by 2, it moves over 2 places to here. And we have this. So 32% is the same thing as 32 over 100. We could reduce it. It's also the same as 32 hundredths, say it according to the last place value. In a problem like this, we want to find this part out of another number. What we're saying is we want to find what is 32% of 220 or times 220. We want this portion. We want 0 and 32 hundredths times 220. So I'm just going to set up this problem and do the calculation. So I have 220 times 32 hundredths. And when I do this, I'll have 0, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4. I'm going to go to 3, so I'll put down a 0. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I have to add these up, and I'm going to have 0. 4 plus 0 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. Carry the 1. So I have this number 7040. My decimal point's right here. And since I have 2 place values here in this number, I'm going to have to move it 1, 2. My final answer is going to be 70 and 40 hundredths, 70 and 40 tenths. There's my answer. Number 2. Find the percent of a number. The same thing. Well, hey, I have 160% of 80. Let's remind ourselves that 100% is the number 1 because 100% is 100 over 100, and 100 divided by 100 does equal 1. So what we have here is we have 1 6/10 times 80. So I'm going to choose to set it up like this, 1 6/10 times 80. Now I'm going to have a 1 place value here. 0 times 6 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. I'll put down a 0 to move to the 8. 8 times 6 is 48. Put down the 8, carry the 4. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. And I have a 1 place value, so I'm going to start my place value here, and I move it over. Final answer, 128. Next problem. Look at the percent proportion. Set up a percent proportion for the problem. Do not solve the proportion for this problem. Okay, when we did proportions, the little tool we had to use kind of looked like this. This is the tool that unlocks the language of the problem and helps us set it up. Is over of equals n over 100. And this came from the part over the whole is equal to percent. And when I look at this, I see, I'm going to highlight some language here. So I see the 45 is, so this is belongs to that part of our setup. 68% I'm given, so that's going to be this part of the problem. And out of what number? Well, I don't know. That's what it's asking. Out of what number? And that's going to be this. So that's going to become the thing that I don't know. That's going to be my variable. I'll call it, I don't know, how about m? So I'm going to set up a little proportion here. And this time I don't have to solve it. I just have to set it up. So my is 45. That's going to be on top. It's my part. My percent is 68, and I can write 68 as 68 over 100. I could reduce it if I want. And my variable, which I said would be m, I'm going to put right there. There's the proportion set up. 45 over m equals, the equals is important, 68 over 100. Well, let's set up the percent equation for this problem. Do not solve the equation for, so we're doing a percent equation this time. And the percent equation looks like the part, or that's our is, it's going to be equal to the percent times the whole. I'm writing it with the parentheses. Remember, anything next to a parenthesis means multiply. Remember, the whole is the word of. So the part equals percent times whole. And when I do that, let's see. What am I given? What percent is 26? So out of my percent, I don't know what percent. They're saying what percent. And that's what I've got to find out. And then out of 78. So there's my of 78. So I'll write here in words too. So this was my part. Just so I can see that. This was going to be my whole. And clearly this is my percent. So if I want to stick it in this little form here, my part comes first. So that's going to be 26. It's going to be equal to the percent. Well, I don't know what the percent is. Let's call it P times the whole. The whole case is 78. Now, while this is P times 78, and this is correct, in algebra, we put the number part in front of the variable. And then we have our variable. And we remember, we read this as 78 times P, which is the same as this. Number 5. Solve the problem by setting up a proportion and showing the work to both sides of the equation. Oh, so this time I have to set up a proportion and solve it. So let's see. My what number is? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to keep my is as yellow. Percent, I did pink, so there's my percent I'm given. And out of 120. So my little tool, remember, is over of equals n over 100. So in this case, what number? I don't know. I'll call it x. Sure. So x out of 120 is going to be equal to 40%. 40 over 100. Let's see. Sometimes it's helpful to simplify. If I go like this and I just kind of cancel out these two zeros, I have 4 tenths. I'll leave it like this. And now what we'll do is I'll solve this using cross product. So I have x times 10, because remember I canceled out those zeros, is 10x equals, I'm going to keep my equal signs nice and lined up, 4 times 120. 4 times 120. I could multiply this, so I'd have 10x equals 4 times 12 is 48. So 4 times 120 is the 48 with the 0 added, so 480. Now I have some number times 10. If I want to solve it, if I want to undo multiplying by 10, I have to divide by 10. If I divide this side by 10, I must divide this side by 10. Well, that's going to be on the left side, 10 divided by 10 equals 1, and 1 times x is x. On this side, I can just see that my zeros will cancel out, and I have 48 divided by 1, which is 48. So there's my answer. So 48, let's just write here, 48 is 40% out of 120. Putting it back on our problem. Oh, look at that. Look at there, I'll pause it for a moment. So 48 is 40% out of 120. I'll do a better job of keeping this in frame, this next one in frame. So it says, solve the problem by setting up a proportion and showing work to both sides of the equation. That's kind of like what we just did right here. Hint, cross product. So I have 25%. Remember, is over of equals my percent. So if I set a proportion, I'm going to have 25%, so 25 over 100. Out of, I don't know out of what number, or my is, I'm given my is 18, So 18 will be on the top. Out of what number? I don't know. Let's call it, I don't know, Q this time around. Now this time, this simplifies quite a bit. If I divide top and bottom by 25, the equation can become 18 over Q. Remember, I just simplified this part. 25 over 100 simplifies to 1 over 4. Now I'll do my cross product. I'll multiply. And what's kind of nice about that is, look, I have Q equals 1. And that's going to be equal to 4 times 18. Well, Q times 1 is Q. Yeah, that's kind of nice. That side's all by itself. And then I'm left 4 times 18. 4 times 18 is going to be 72. We're down here. So what this is saying is 25% of 72 is 18. Put it back in the problem. Next, moving right along here. Solve the problem using either percent proportion or percent equation. So I can do it either way this time. Let's do a percent equation once to see that. So remember, that was the part equals the percent times the whole. I'll use W for whole. Is that okay? So what percent out of 48 is 6? So this is there's my part. That was in yellow. What percent? I'm asking that. That was pink. And out of 48. So if I do this, I'm going to have 6, that's my part, is equal to what percent? I don't know. So some out of 48. So 48 out of some percent. So this I'll call it P for percents. So P equals percent. So I just have to solve this and then write it as a percent. So I'm multiplying P by 48, so I'm going to divide both sides by 48. On this side, I'm just left with P. Here, I'm going to have myself a little division problem. So what is 6 divided by 48? Or actually, I could see that I can simplify this. If I divide top and bottom by 6, I'm going to have 1 over 8. So now I just need to do a little division here on the side. So this is the number 1 divided by 8. 1 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 1? Well, it doesn't at all, so I'm going to have to put a 0. Put down a decimal point, I'll bring it up, and add a 0. How many 8s do I get out of 10? Well, I can get 1. And 1 times 8 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Let's add another 0 and bring it down. How many 8s can I get out of 20? I can get 2. 2 times 8 is 16. And 20 minus 16 is 4. If I do one more 0, I have 40. How many 8s can I get out of 45? 5 times 8 is 40. That equals 0. 40 minus 40 is 0, and I'm at the end here. So P equals this 0.125. Well, if you remember, to go from a decimal to percent, you just move the decimal over 2 places to the right and add a percent. So P equals 12.5%. So 12.5% of 48 is 6. Number 8. Solve the problem using a percent proportion or a percent equation. Show work to both sides of the equation. 12% out of 150 is what number? Let's do the equation just one more time so we get that experience. So the part is, remember, the part is equal to the percent times the whole. So is what number? I don't know. So my part, I'll just call it P for part. What number is what number? I'm calling that P. It's going to be equal to the percent, 12%, which I will write as a decimal, out of 150. This question is no different than find 12% out of 150, which is just like this problem here. What is 32% out of 220? So this is much like the first question. So it looks like I just have a little multiplication problem to do. I'll just do it here to one side. I have 150 times 0.12 2, or 12 hundredths. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Put down the 0, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Then I put down a 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. I'll add things up, and I'll have 0, 0, 8, 1. And I have 2 place values. So I'm going to start here in my answer, and I move over twice. And that's going to be 18. So after doing this multiplication, P is equal to 18. So what we're saying is that 12% out of 150 is 18. Let's see, where else we have just a couple more problems here. First one. Let's make sure. This is bonus stuff, so this isn't required. Set up the problem below using either percent proportion or percent equation. Okay. In the city of Springfield, 75% of the parks have tennis courts. So look, I'm given a percent. If 15 parks have tennis courts, how many parks does Springfield have altogether? So remember, you've got my percent. Those are my 3 pieces. My 3 pieces are the part, the whole, and the percent. Well, I've kind of identified the percent. Yay. And then there's this other number here. 15 of their parks have tennis courts. And it's asking, how many parks does Springfield have altogether? Altogether is a word that describes kind of the everything or the whole. This word right here. We can think of this as the whole. And so they're asking, how many parks are there? So 15 is going to be my part. My part, I did yellows. So this is my part. My part is 15. So hey, let's set up a proportion. So remember, is over of equals n over 100. This is my part. My part I have is 15 out of the number of parks I don't know. So what do we call the parks? We'll use x. We haven't used x yet. Is going to equal the percent. 75 over 100. Okay, so what do we have here? Now, this is something I could simplify. If I divide top and bottom by 25, this becomes 15x equals 3/4. So now I do my cross product. 3x equals, again, notice how my equal signs are lined up. 4 times 15 is 60. And I have one last step here to do. Since I'm multiplying by 3, to solve this, I'm going to have to divide both sides by 3. So x is going to equal 60 divided by 3 is 20. So what they're saying is in Springfield, there are 20 parks, right? All together. 20 parks all together. Let's see. Solve the bonus problem clearly showing work to both sides of your equation. Oh, hey, I actually did that. Set up the problem using the percent, proportion, or percent. Oh, okay. So I just had to set it up here. I took the time and effort to go ahead and solve it as well. Okay, I hope this helps. If you have questions, come see Mr. Rowe. Otherwise, write your question down. Be prepared for this quiz. You guys can do awesome at it.